The movie begins with the hero, Chris Cole, who is a well-known personality. One day, Chris is sitting at a restaurant with his girlfriend Ashley, trying to tell her that he loves her very much, and that they should think about their future together. Hearing this, Ashley becomes very happy, thinking that Chris is about to propose to her. Meanwhile, we see Zara, a beautiful woman who is Chris's assistant, on her way to meet him. Chris had sent her to pick up a gift for Ashley. Zara arrives at the restaurant and secretly hands Chris the gift. Chris opens the gift in front of Ashley, revealing a ring, but instead of proposing, he tells Ashley that they are breaking up because his film career demands too much time and he won't be able to give her the attention she deserves. Hearing this, Ashley's eyes fill with tears and she leaves with the gift. Chris then heads home with Zara, telling her that she took too long to arrive and he'd been waiting for her. He even jokes about firing her, to which Zara replies that she feels the same way and would like to leave. From Zara's reaction, it becomes clear that she is not happy with her job, and Chris himself is not satisfied with the storyline of his new movie. So, he asks Zara to find a new writer. Chris also asks Zara to retrieve some of his belongings and underwear from Ashley's house, but Zara finally has enough and says she won't do these kinds of tasks anymore. She's frustrated with his requests, while Chris, rather arrogantly, claims that people would buy his underwear. On the other hand, we are introduced to Zara's grandmother, who is visited by Zara's mother, Anna. Anna is a writer, but feels that her work isn't good enough. Zara's grandmother reassures her, saying she's a good writer and shouldn't be disheartened. She encourages her to take pride in being a great mother who looks after Zara well. Here, we also learn that Zara's father is no longer alive. Soon after, Zara returns home. Zara goes to her mom and asks, "Mom, how old were you when you wrote your first book?" Her mom replies, "I was 29 years old." Zara says, "I don't know when I'll become successful." Her mom responds, "Chris is training you to handle the company." But Zara replies, "Sometimes I feel like Chris forgets about me." Her mom says, "You need to show him what you're capable of. Just because he's famous doesn't mean he'll make you do everything." Later, while Zara is asleep in her bedroom, Chris calls her and says, "I can't sleep, and I need you to do something for me. Go to the supermarket now and get some essentials for me." He also adds, "I've stopped going to the supermarket because every time I go, people swarm around me." Zara goes to the market to get the items, and Chris tells her, "Make sure you're at my place before 8 a.m. But instead, Zara goes to her friend Stella, who is a writer, and asks, "Can you write a script for my boss? Since you're a writer, you'll be great at it." But Stella refuses, saying, "I only know how to arrange clothes in closets. I can't write scripts." Now Zara is running late. When she finally reaches Chris's place, she finds out he's changed his door passcode. Chris, on a voice call, tells her, "I'm not letting you in until you apologize, and if you didn't bring the items, consider your job gone." This makes Zara angry. She somehow manages to get inside and confronts Chris, saying, "I brought all your stuff, but I don't want to work with you anymore. I'm quitting." She starts to leave, but Chris tries to stop her. Zara tells him, "You don't value my work. I came here to be a producer, but you keep giving me useless tasks instead of letting me do what I'm actually skilled at. I'd rather work somewhere else." After saying all this, Zara leaves and goes home. Her mom notices her distress and says, "You seem very troubled today." But Zara says, "It's nothing, I'm just tired." Just then, her friend Jimmy arrives and says, "Today calls for a celebration." But Zara brushes it off because she hasn't yet told her mom that she quit her job. Jimmy and Zara go into a room and talk for a while. After Jimmy leaves, Zara tells her mom that she has quit Chris's job, but now she feels lost and unsure about what to do next. She asks her mom for guidance. Her mom responds, saying that only Zara can decide what she wants to do. Feeling troubled, Zara leaves. Meanwhile, Chris is stressed about work and doesn't know what to do next, so he decides to visit Zara at her home. When he arrives, Zara's mom is busy cleaning. Chris rings the doorbell, but no one answers, so he lets himself in. Hearing the door open, Zara's mom assumes it's an intruder and approaches to confront him. However, when she sees Chris, she realizes it's Zara's boss. Chris explains that he came to see Zara, and her mom tells him that Zara isn't home and might take a while to return. Chris decides to wait, and Zara's mom invites him to stay. Zara's mom changes her clothes and joins Chris, and they start talking. Meanwhile, Zara and Stella are out walking their dog. Zara is trying to convince Stella to write the script for Chris's movie. Back at the house, Chris and Zara's mom start applying face masks. During their conversation, she shows him a book she wrote, mentioning that she is a writer. As they continue talking, they seem to grow closer and end up kissing. Passion ignites between them, and they close the room to be alone. Zara returns home and calls for her mom while heading to her room. When Zara sees both of them without clothes, she screams and, backing up, hits the wall, and faints. In the next scene, we see Zara in the hospital. Zara says to her mom, "Chris is 20 years younger than you. How can you be with him like that?" Her mom explains that he's only 16 years younger. From her mom's tone, it seems like she might be in love with Chris. Just then, Chris arrives, and it turns out that the doctor is a big fan of Chris, which makes Zara very angry. When they return home, Chris tells Zara that he wants her to be the producer of his film. Zara replies, "Are you crazy? People will think my mom slept with you, and that's why I got this job." Then Chris clarifies that he didn't come to be with her mom, but actually came to see Zara and make her the producer. Zara warns Chris, saying, "Whatever you did with my mom, it better not happen again." Chris promises her that nothing like that will happen again. In the next scene, Chris is shooting his movie, and Zara is working with him. Later, Chris messages Zara's mom and invites her to dinner. Though Zara's mom initially refuses, she eventually agrees. Meanwhile, Zara and Stella are busy working on Chris's movie script. Zara's mom arrives at the restaurant for dinner, where Chris tells her that whatever happened between them won't happen again, and Zara's mom agrees. After dinner, they go for a walk, drink a lot, and their story seems to start all over again. Zara's mom returns home, smiling while looking at Chris's message. Zara, noticing her mom's outfit, asks, "What are you wearing?" Her mom explains, "I went to dinner with Chris." Zara then sarcastically asks if they did only dinner, or something more. Her mom says Chris is a good guy, and that Zara is misunderstanding him. Then, Zara calls her friend and tells her about her mom, saying, "My mom went out for dinner with Chris today, but how can I believe they only had dinner?" Meanwhile, Zara's mom calls her grandmother and confesses that she lied to her daughter and feels terrible about it. We see Zara's mom and Chris spending a lot of time together, and they seem very happy together. In the next scene, we see Chris on a shoot, but the director is unhappy with his performance. So, Zara and the director try to guide Chris, encouraging him to act better. When Zara gets home, her mom quickly says goodbye and leaves. While Zara is talking to her friend, she tells her that Chris has found a new writer for his script and didn't even inform her. This hurts Zara a lot, but when Zara goes to her mom's room, she finds out that the new writer is none other than her own mom, who's writing the script for Chris. This discovery deeply upsets Zara. In the next scene, Zara and her friend go to Chris's party. There, Zara confronts her mom, saying, "You lied to me," but her mom says, "I was going to tell you everything." Zara retorts, "I requested my friend for the script, but Chris chose you." This leads to an argument between Zara and her mom about Chris, and during this argument, Zara's mom compares Chris to Zara's dad, which hurts Zara. Their conversation reaches a point where Zara's mom says, "Don't make it so that I have to choose between the two of you." And in the heat of the moment, Zara tells her mom that if things continue like this, she'll leave the house. Zara's mom, in a slip, responds, "Then why did you come back home?" This deeply hurts Zara, and feeling heartbroken, she decides to leave and goes to her friend's house. There, Zara tells her friend that her mom and Chris have deceived her. On the other side, Zara's mom goes to her mother-in-law's house. It's Christmas, and they're talking about Chris. Randomly, Zara's grandmother suggests that her mom should invite Chris over, but Zara's mom refuses, saying Zara wouldn't like this at all. Her grandmother reassures her, saying, "Don't worry about her, I'll talk to her." Zara also arrives to celebrate Christmas and begins talking to her grandmother, telling her mom has accepted Chris. Her grandmother explains to her, "Your mom loves you very much, but remember, she's also a woman with her own feelings." Zara then sees Chris outside, which upsets her further, but her grandmother tells her, "I invited Chris," and says, "It's been 11 years since your grandfather passed, and since then, your mom has only loved you, so join in your mom's happiness." In the final scene, we see everyone having dinner together, chatting and spending time. Zara notices how happy her mom is with Chris. After dinner, Zara and her mother-in-law sit together and start talking about Chris. Zara's mother-in-law begins to share about Zara's dad, revealing that things were not going well between them. Zara's dad wanted to divorce her, but he passed away before it could happen, and no one knew about it. Later, everyone gathers to celebrate Christmas together. The next morning, it's time for everyone to leave, so Zara goes to the car to place her bag. She notices that Chris's bag is slightly open, and when she looks inside, she finds the same ring she once bought for her ex-girlfriend at the time of their breakup. This surprises Zara, because Chris has a habit of gifting this ring to anyone he breaks up with. When everyone returns home, Zara confronts Chris, saying, "So, you've been fooling me all along." Zara then shares with her mom that whenever Chris ends a relationship, he gifts a ring. She recalls how Chris had taken her mom to New York streets, something only the two of them knew about. This shocks Zara's mom, and she asks Chris to leave. Without a word, he walks away. Zara, feeling upset, goes to her friend's house and shares everything. Her friend, who recently went through a breakup, tells her to calm down. Zara, surprised, asks her friend why she didn't share her troubles earlier, to which her friend replies that Zara has always been absorbed in her own problems, never thinking about others. Hearing this, Zara leaves, feeling sad, and struggles through her day. As New Year approaches, Zara goes to her friend's house to celebrate and spend some time with her. The next day, Zara goes to Krish's office to meet him. She finds him sitting there, looking sad. Krish tells her, "I play the role of a hero in movies, but in real life, I should be the villain." To this, Zara responds, "You're not a villain, Krish, but sometimes you do act like one." Krish says, "I didn't want to break up with your mom, but I feel like I don't know how to love. That's why I kept the ring in my bag. And as for taking her to New York Street, I did it so no photographer would see us." Zara apologizes again and says, "Before I leave, I'll make everything right." Zara takes Chris to the supermarket, where Chris is surprised to see that everyone is behaving normally with him and no one is taking pictures with him. Meanwhile, his grandma also arrives there with his mom. This was actually their plan to reunite Chris and Zara's mom. Grandma asks Zara's mom to get some items, so Zara's mom goes inside the store. Meanwhile, Zara and Chris are shopping together, and Zara starts explaining things to her mom. She says, "I was responsible for your breakup, so I want to apologize to both of you." Saying this, Zara leaves from there. Chris and Zara's mom start getting close to each other again. Later, a woman approaches Zara and asks if Chris is inside. Zara responds, "I didn't see Chris inside. It's just my mom and her boyfriend in there." She says this and leaves. A few days later, Zara is shown to have become a producer, and with this, the story ends.